All right, thank you guys for coming and listening. So, Valeria Games, it was funny, I was listening to Thomas, and a lot of the stuff that he was mentioning are things that we are working on and working on building. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, at Valeria Games, we're actually building a mobile game on Android and iOS, and it will be on the IMX blockchain. And one of our focuses is basically to build a fun and entertaining game. Now, basically, in our mobile game, whether you're playing with a MetaMask wallet or if you're just playing on your as just a regular game, the whole focus is going to be digital avatar ownership. So you'll basically be able to own your champion as a digital avatar. You'll be able to own your Valerians as digital collectibles. But we're not going to be promoting or marketing this as an NFT or a crypto game or a play-to-earn game. It's all going to basically be promoted as digital ownership. One thing that IMX does that really gives us a huge advantage here is their custodial wallets. So when you download our game on the login screen, you're gonna have the option to be able to connect your MetaMask. But if you decide to proceed with, let's say, a username and a password, you're basically still going to be collecting NFTs, but it will be through a custodial wallet. So you won't even know that you're collecting NFTs. As far as you're concerned, you just got a champion that you're able to sell and trade. But the key focus, again, is to build entertaining games. We have full cycle game development in-house. So we have the 3D artist, the animation, we got concept design, we got the back end, the front end, blockchain engineers. We got full cycle game development in-house, which allows us to not only plan for building multiple games, but also be in a position to do so. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on why that's so important particularly. And of course, you want to have a great story, a great gameplay loop. And just coming to mobile, I'm sure a lot of you have heard the news from Apple. I think what's interesting is when Apple came up with the news, a lot of people, regarding the NFTs in the marketplace, a lot of people might have had a knee-jerk reaction to thinking it was negative, but it's actually a huge positive for the space overall. For them to allow us to be using NFTs inside of mobile, it's just going to be a huge advantage for us. And so, yeah, we'll be launching, the 2.0 funnel. So the reason we're calling this a 2.0 funnel is because when we market our game, again, it will just be marketed as a fun mobile game that you get to own all of your assets. It's almost a seamless funnel because these players will be collecting, trading, selling, buying NFTs without even realizing it. Now, tokenomics. Our community members were our seed investors. This is one of the things that we are most proud about because we had a mint back in April. We sold out in a few minutes. It was an amazing time for our team. But the reason our project was so successful in our mint was because we replaced the ICOs, the pre-venture capitalists. We replaced them with our community. And when we said that if you buy a Genesis land, you will be able to receive 30% of our token. Collectively, the whole collection will receive 30% of our token over a 2-year period. And so this is something similar that you might see from like a pre-venture capitalist or something like that. We basically took those same terms, similar lockup periods, and gave those rewards to our Genesis landowners. And so that's kind of the reward for helping us basically fund everything that we've done so far. And it was funny, again, Thomas was mentioning the yield farming. There's actually going to be no staking rewards for our token because we want players who generate our token to be the active players who generate our token. So if you're beating a dungeon, if you want a tournament, or whatever the case may be, these are the players that we want generating our token. We don't want someone to buy $1 million worth of our token, invest it, and passively begin to start to generate our token in the background. It's not going to help the economy because the tokens that are being supplied is not going to be correlated with your active player base. But with our model, what we've done is we've eliminated all passive token distribution, minus our Genesis land, of course, and we've said that all token distribution will be correlated directly with our player base. So more players will mean more tokens are going into circulation through rewards. Less players will mean less tokens going into circulation. And that, I think, is going to be extremely important. In addition to that, we've also put the token at the heart of our ecosystem. So in our marketplace, if you want to buy, sell, trade Valerians, the currency for that marketplace is going to be our token. If you want to do an in-game transaction, like level up a Valerian, Valerians are like Pokemon-like creatures. That's Voltra on the big board there. So Valerians, for example, if you want to level them up, if you want to evolve them, whether it's blacksmith, shiny breeding, you're trying to power up a weapon, there's going to be a transaction cost associated with all of these things, and that will be paid in our token as well as in-game purchases. If you want to join a tournament, for example, you're going to have to pay that fee in tokens. So we've really taken the idea that a token should have utility or use cases, and we've put it on a level where when we were discussing with IMX and we said we want our token to be the only token acceptable, even IMX was like, we've never had a request like that before. Most people are usually okay with Ethereum, and they want more tokens to be accessible for them, but we said no. We want our token to be the only token to make sure that we have as many use cases as possible for it. In-game integration. This is what I'm most excited about. So when you see our Valerians, and you see the Valerians on the screen here, you got Clementine's Nightmare on the top right, you got Wolves, you got Project Gojira, you got Kaiju Kings, Creeps, Cyber Turtles, Recon Rams. These are all official partnerships. And what this means is it's probably the most mutual beneficial relationship you can think of, because let's say, for example, Clementine's Nightmare. Let's use them as an example on the top right. So that's a Valerian, but they also have a champion. Now, the Clementine's Nightmare champion is only going to be claimable by people who own the Clementine's Nightmare NFT. So if you have, let's say, for example, a Kaiju King, if you own the Kaiju King NFT, you will be able to claim the Kaiju King champion inside of our mobile game. Now, we have partnered with over 50 NFT projects in this mobile game, and we have some huge ones that we're going to be announcing shortly. But the key to take away here is these players are going to have to download the game to claim these exclusive NFTs that we're giving to their community. So on the one hand, we reward them by saying, hey, you had 2,000 Kaiju King holders come in and claim the NFT. Those are the only 2,000 players that are going to ever be able to use that champion in the game. And these are actual playable characters, so that champion is going to be on the battlefield swinging his sword, jumping in the air, doing attacks, and it will only be claimable by them. If anybody else wants it, they're going to have to buy it on the peer-to-peer marketplace. And in return, what do we get? We get their support, because these players are all going to be downloading our game. If you take 1,000 players from each one of the communities, which is, let's say 50 communities, that's 50,000 players downloading our game to claim their exclusive NFT. So it's one of the things that we're most proud of, and it's something that we did from the very beginning. And it's an extremely mutual beneficial relationship for both projects. Now, one thing that I think needs to be considered is, okay, we understand that we're not building a play-to-earn game. We're not even using those words. We're saying that this is digital ownership of your avatar, digital ownership of your Valerian. But naturally, when you own something, it means you can sell it. And if you can sell it, the earning capacity will always be there. And I don't mean to speak about earning capacity in like a negative way, but the key that what I'm trying to say here is basically a large contingent of your players, maybe 6 months later, maybe a year later, they're going to progress so far within your game that there's going to come a time where they're just like, you know what, I'm just going to start selling everything that I'm earning. If I'm earning Valerians, I'm going to sell it. If I'm earning tokens, I'm going to sell it. Because they've reached a point where they're no longer too interested in continuing the progression, or maybe they're interested, but the kind of rewards that they're getting, they can really, let's just say, have some strong earning capacity, so they choose to sell. How does your economy survive when a large contingent of your players reach this point? And that's where I believe it's extremely important to have multiple games in your ecosystem. And I know it's easier said than done, and this goes back to our strength of having an in-house development team, full cycle game development. But what will happen is, for example, we've created our assets to be used on PC. We're building a mobile game, so we've dumbed all of our assets down to be used on the Unity engine. After our mobile game releases and we begin development on let's say our MOBA, like a Dota 2 League of Legends style game, we're able to use the same assets and move them over to the second game. Of course, you'll have to re-rig the assets, you'll need new animations. It's not going to be copy-paste, it's a lot of work. But we've had the foresight to make sure that we minimize the work as much as possible early on. But what's going to happen is when the second game launches, you're going to have a new player base, you're going to have a whole new use case for your token, because again, your second game will also have the token at the heart of that ecosystem. You'll have NFT interoperability between the games. So if I got that's Obsidian, for example. If I have Obsidian in the mobile game, I can move Obsidian over to the MOBA and use them in that game. And you have NFT interoperability between the games. But the point is the second game, all in-game transactions, in-game purchases will also be your token. So what you're doing with multiple games is you're taking your limited supply of tokens and you're stretching it between two games and two-player bases now. And that's important. The reason that's extremely important is because, again, if you stick to one game, there will come a time when the player progresses so far that they're just going to be like, I'm going to start selling now. And that's why it needs to be a continued development, continued progression, introducing more and more games. And not everything has to be a MOBA or an open world MMORPG, although those are in the plans. We're also building a trading card game on browser, a very simple but complicated, or like really simple in terms of the rules and everything, but we're going to be launching a mobile trading card game on browser as well. And it's going to be NFT interoperability. And that's going to be simultaneous with our mobile game coming out early next year. And the other thing that continuing to develop is it's going to give us an opportunity to expand with more partner projects. Our collection of Valerians have been, for the first 150, our partner projects have completely exhausted that. We have no more room to add more partner projects to our first 150 Valerians for our mobile game. But as we're able to create more games, we're able to add more Valerians and continue to partner with more projects. And that's the end of the presentation. I think I went a little bit over time. I apologize for that. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to check out our website. Feel free to check out our Twitter. And thank you all for listening.